What's up, guys? I'm Matt Manny. In this episode, I want to talk about the biggest mistake I've made as an artist. Only one, that's it. Why? Because I'm perfect, of course. No, because there's only one mistake that matters, and it's one that we all make, and it's one that some of us continue to make. We gotta stop this shit. So let's just jump in, baby.
Matt Manny Art.
Alright, guys. What is this one mistake that all artists make? In fact, it's a mistake that all people make. Everybody you've ever met, everybody you're ever going to meet, has made this mistake at some point in their life. What is it? It's believing or giving full truth value to the stories that we tell ourselves. What does that mean? Our whole perception of reality are just stories that we tell ourselves, right? Stories about ourselves in relation to other people, stories about other people in their relation to us, stories about the world, stories about our consciousness and reality, and just everything and how we relate to that, right? We make up stories in order to decipher and make sense of existing, right? We're existing. I'm here, here's this table, here's my body, right? I am here in this world, and to make sense of that, I need to tell myself stories to be able to get through, right? That's just how our brains and how our reality develop. So what happens is we don't have all the information necessary to tell ourselves perfect stories. Even if we did, that information then gets filtered through our experiences and our ego and all this other baggage and stuff we have in our brain, and then we come up with a story and then we run with it, right? But it might not be accurate. We don't have all the information necessary. Even if we did, we're probably not coming to it with a clear outside perspective and outside understanding to see all of the moving pieces, right? So we're seeing, let's say, a first-person shooter game, whereas meanwhile a whole bunch of other people are looking at us and see that third-person perspective, and it looks totally different, right? From first person, I'm carrying a gun. From third person, I might have something on my back I can't even see. So we need to understand that these stories we tell ourselves may not be true at all, or they may only be partially true, but no matter what, they're probably skewed in some direction, okay? Now, that could be a positive thing, it could be a bad thing, but either way, we have to be more conscious of the fact that these stories we tell ourselves might be flawed. So what's an example of that? Well, let's say you're just killing it right now as an artist, or in whatever you're doing. If you're a graphic artist, you're a motion artist, you're a filmmaker, you're a writer. Right now, everything's going well for you. You're getting jobs, you're killing it, you're getting awards, you're doing all these amazing things, and you think, right now I'm at the pinnacle of my success and I am a master of my craft and all these things. But you got to understand, that might not be the greatest or most clear viewpoint to take. Why? Well, because maybe your peak or where you're at right now is really somebody else's low point. There's always going to be somebody above you, right? If you're a filmmaker and you got something in South by Southwest or in Sundance or some other festival or your local little festival, and you go, oh wow, I'm killing it. Well, guess what? There's always going to be the Spielbergs. There's always going to be the people who are winning even more awards. For every one award you won, they have 10 Oscars, or they have 10 Grammys, whatever it is, right? So you have to understand that that perception of yourself killing it might not be 100% accurate. That doesn't mean go shit on yourself, go, I stink, I'm no good, this whole thing I did is garbage. That's not going to be helpful either. But by having an awareness that your story is incomplete, or maybe just true for a portion of your reality, right now where you're at, you might be doing good. But a better way to look at this would be more humble and have that awareness that, yeah, you've done good, but this isn't the top yet, If you're climbing a mountain, maybe you're halfway. Now, you look like you're above a lot of other people, but there's a whole bunch of people that are at the top of that mountain or way ahead of you. And guess what? Not only are they ahead of you, they might be in a full sprint and not even tired. Whereas you had to use all of your effort and all of your knowledge and everything you could muster to get to that spot, that little base camp where you're at. Well, those other people, they're not even tired. While you're sleeping, they're marching ahead through 5 feet of snow, not even breaking a sweat. So now that kind of understanding, that kind of story you tell yourself, all of a sudden you realize, oh shit, I gotta work harder. You hear these birds? The birds get it. They never sleep. They never think, oh, look at this nest I've built. Look at this prey that I just caught and devoured. The next day, back to ground zero. It's survival every single day. So having that kind of story in your mind, you can see how that's a lot more powerful than telling yourself how great you are. Oh, I'm amazing, right? Now, as an artist, that's going to destroy you. That's going to stop your drive. That's going to make you get complacent, make you get comfortable. And comfort is death, especially to creativity, especially to anyone who's artistic. The opposite story is also true. If you're down right now, you're not feeling too great, you feel like the world's kicking you while you're down, nothing's going your way, especially right now with coronavirus and all that. A lot of people are feeling like, they're not getting the likes, they're not getting the views, people just aren't giving their work the time of day, or just people aren't giving you any attention, or you're not getting the jobs, or you keep applying for jobs and you're not getting the opportunities, or you think you're not getting paid enough, or a million different situations, whatever it is. Or maybe you're trying to learn something new and you're struggling, right? You feel like you're a traditional artist, you need to learn digital art and it's just not your thing, but you feel like it's important for the job market. Or you're trying to learn a new camera skill or a new writing technique or whatever it is, and you're struggling. You might tell yourself this story: I suck, I'm no good, I'm always gonna suck, there's no point in doing anything because it always backfires, nothing works out for me, and all blah blah blah. All that kind of bullshit. You're on loop right now in your brain. You're feeding yourself this story, this defeatist victim mentality bullshit. And guess what? That's just as untrue as the story of telling you you're God's gift to art, you're God's gift to Photoshop, or whatever other bullshit story you're telling yourself. Neither of these are accurate. They might be accurate right now. Sure, maybe you do suck right now. We've all sucked at one point in time. Or maybe you are great right now. Things are going your way. But nothing is constant in life. So these stories are skewed. You got to realize that, they're a snapshot, right? They're a snapshot in reality, but they're not the full picture, of past, present, and future. So you need to realize that these stories also aren't true. Now, if you're not the type of person who can self-analyze and sit and question yourself or meditate, see, for me that kind of stuff works. I like to sit in silence and do thought experiments with myself and just type things out, or I like to write and just think things through in like a very logical format and question myself. If that's not you, maybe try doodling. I like to doodle out sometimes my thoughts so I get a visual representation of myself, and it kind of removes me from the whole bubble that I'm in my mind, and I look at my own self like another character, like a character I'd see in a story or a book, and it helps me get a clearer picture. If that's not your thing, then at the end of the day, you could always just do this. Ask yourself this question. Whatever situation you're in, be it good or bad, or maybe just nothing, maybe nothing's going on in your life. Ask yourself, has this always been true for every moment in my life? And will this continue to be true for every moment in my life? The answer is probably no. And in a lot of instances, it has to be no, especially in the instance where you're struggling or things suck. It has to be no, because we've all been a baby. And you sucked at a ton of stuff when you were a baby. You couldn't walk, you couldn't talk, you couldn't feed yourself. You could barely not crap in your own pants. So clearly, at one point in your life, you sucked at a lot of things. But now look at you. You can communicate fluently. You're probably a great cook, or you can at least feed yourself. You can run. You can do all these other things. You can use a toilet. You can use all of these things that you once couldn't do. That isn't any different than any other skill in life. In fact, probably harder. Now you're an adult. You have the internet. You have a library. You have people you can go ask. You have all these resources where you can overcome these challenges. But that big mistake that you're making is listening to this story that you're telling yourself that isn't accurate. So what we need to do is get in the habit of analyzing these stories that we tell ourselves. Just pick them apart a little bit. Doesn't mean it's not somewhat true right now, but make sure that you have a clearer picture of the whole story that you're telling yourself. So if we get back to that question, has this always been true and will this always be true? That baby example is just a great one, because you can't deny yourself that the answer is no, right? At some point you probably couldn't ride a bike. Now you might be able to hop on a bike while you got your beats in, while you're holding a coffee, and it's like nothing, right? You can do it without even thinking. So whatever challenges you're facing now are someday going to look like that, right? If you're trying to learn Photoshop and programs, you might be like, oh my God, I have no idea what's going on. But in a couple of months, you might look back and you're going to be doing things that you didn't even realize now you're not even thinking about, but you used to have to look up over and over again. How do I do this? How do I do that? Now you're doing them. And if you took a second to just look at it and realize, oh my God, this is common knowledge to me now. That's everything in life, okay? There's going to be a struggle, and then there's going to be an exponential point of growth where you're going to learn a ton, and then there's going to be a plateau where you're really not learning a lot, but you're instilling those habits, okay? So this whole idea of telling ourselves stories, this big mistake, this is something you got to build that same habit of just analyzing what you're telling yourself, okay? Just be a little bit conscious of what you're telling yourself. Take a step back. Whatever works for you, do it, you know? Because this is more geared towards artists, I'd say try drawing yourself out as a character. You'd be so surprised how you start to laugh at yourself and the things you think about, right? You might have these ideas that you just come back to time and time and time again. You know, when I was doing like a lot of stand-up comedy, I remember, you know, I'd have these like thought loops in my head that I'd just chew on at night and during the day, and it would suck so much energy out of my life. And then when I would draw myself, you know, doing stand-up or just my thought process that I take into writing jokes or whatever, I started just kind of laughing at myself about how serious I was taking something that's just supposed to be fun anyway. And maybe that's a big part of the problem. It's just like these things become so serious in our minds, but really once you separate yourself from them, you realize how silly a lot of this stuff is. And most of this stuff stems from something that at its core used to be just you scribbling around as a kid with some crayons or messing around with paints, and you were free to do whatever you wanted. It didn't become this like cloud or monster in the back of your head. It's ridiculous. So I hope this just at least gives you a starting point on thinking about these types. Maybe you've never thought about this kind of stuff, but this is the number one biggest mistake I've made as an artist and that I see people make, especially when it comes to comparing myself to other people's work. So many times I make up stories. I see somebody's work and I'm like, oh man, they must be super skilled and they're all the way up here, they're a pro, and wow, they've done work for Adidas, or wow, they've done work, oh my God, I could never, I'm just a piece of crap, I'm a nobody. And then you find out like they don't know nearly as much as you think they do. They've gotten a couple of good opportunities and they're just putting those opportunities out there, showing people this fake reality, right? This facade that people put up, especially with social media and all, whatever it is, LinkedIn, Instagram, their portfolio, that of course that's the best they've done. That's why they're going to show that to people. But that might just be a few things. Then you start questioning these people and talking about things like, oh, what program do you use? Or what camera do you use? What do you do here? What do you do there? They don't know shit. You find out they've just had a couple of good opportunities, and honestly they've been sitting around not really improving their skills, not learning much. They just look up some tutorials here and there just like you do, but they're probably pretty lazy about it turns out. So you gotta realize that what we see out there is not the true picture of reality. And that's another good way to kind of test these stories. Start asking questions. Get out there and start poking holes in the stories that you're telling yourself about other people. Start delving into what do they know? What kind of experience have they actually had? It might be way more than yours, and that's good. That's another way for you to break down that story that you're telling yourself how great you are. You might realize, oh shit, I haven't done anything. These people have struggled and worked way harder than I have, and they still are. They're busting their ass out there. So I find just communicating with people is another good way to get a little bit more truth into your world. But you got to get in the habit of doing that, and you're going to be surprised that these stories are going to become a lot more honest, and you're going to start being a lot more honest with yourself, and that will give you a better picture of how you need to act, right? Do you need to work harder? Maybe you need to relax a little bit, actually. Maybe you're working too hard. So this type of thing I just think will impact your life. It will impact your life completely, because the value of your life is going to be based on the value and the types of stories that you tell yourself. So guys, I just hope and pray that you are a good storyteller, or that you make yourself a good storyteller, because it's your life and you only get one. Alright guys, so that's all I have to say this time. If you like these videos, you like what I've been up to, you like my style, you like what I have to say, hit like and subscribe, guys. I love you so much. I appreciate you guys joining me. Stay inspired, stay busy, stay safe out there. As always, thanks so much for sticking with me. Love you guys.